Hey, what's up, Black Knight Nation? The Black Knight Nation podcast has returned, and the Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company ran by Joe Ross, who's a former Army fullback. He's a former Army football coach, served in the Army, and we thank Joe Ross and Higher Echelon for sponsoring this podcast. Believe we're going to have a relationship continuing with Higher Echelon. We really appreciate that. And we welcome our Steve Anderson is here, co-host Steve Anderson, back from some training. And man, Steve, we took a hiatus a little bit from the podcasting world. My bad. But we brought on a big guest tonight. So with our return. So let's introduce 1995 Army football captain Joel Davis to the Black Knight Nation podcast. Joel, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here, man. Good to finally meet Steve-O in person.
So Joel,
give it to me.
Sal had mentioned maybe this was the first time, but I don't know if you remember, Benny K brought you to the prep school, and you were one of the largest people I've ever seen in my life.
Sexy.
At that point in my life.
Sexy. One of the sexiest people you ever saw.
Yeah, largest.
Please use the proper vernacular.
Smooth. You had that nice, smooth, trim goatee going on. This was.
I had to shave that. Once I had my little baby girl because I kissed her cheeks so much I was roughing them up. So I had to shave the goatee for my babies.
This is our first time actually conversating. Joel, big fan. Benny K is a huge mentor of mine. Seen a lot of his film.
Great dude, man.
Exo Facto, your film, and you guys were the last leading charge for that for a long time, up until my senior season when we finally got back on the winning record. But
you were at the prep school. You were at the prep school when I gave that talk.
I was 18, 17. I was 18, maybe 19 years old when you showed up at the prep school in Fort Monmouth, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Benny K brought you here. He warned us about your personality, and you were still very jacked. It seemed like you could still throw around 4 or 5 pretty easy. And you just talked to us about, and Joel, remember, I'm an 18-year-old, boy trying to become a man, listening to a guy who's been there and done that. So I was dialed in. And I just remember you talking to us about, commitment, dedication, and teamwork were really the 3 things that you brought up, and just how, hey, don't let the guy next to you down. Okay. Like, do the set, do the rep in the weight room, do the time in the film room, but more so than anything, don't let the guy next to you down. And just kind of really live the brotherhood as I got to know it as I got older. Anyway, yes, we have met in person, but this will be the first time we actually, maybe I'm not a timid 18-year-old where I can actually talk to you now.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a good speech. I remember coming down to the prep school. That was a good opportunity, man. The prep school, Fort Monmouth. That's old school, man. I figured you'd probably be too young to remember something like that. But Fort Monmouth, man, good times when we were down there at prep school. But coming down and talking to you guys, man, you guys were a good group of guys, very receptive. And Benny K, man, Benny K is top shelf, man. That's a great dude. I love that dude.
Joel, I can't. Man, I don't know if West Point would have stuck. I don't know where I would be, but Coach Ben Kalwika was huge in my, going from my 17, 18-year-old senior in high school to 18, 19-year-old, like understanding what is really going around in the world. I still remember our first defensive set. He called it Operation Anaconda. That was our first game plan, and I ended up serving in the 101st, so I learned all about that later on. But
you were lucky to have Benny K when you were at prep school. We had Coach Noto and Coach Al Leon as the GAs when I were there. But the sad thing is that after the football season, they leave. And when I was at prep school, I mean, we had a great prep school class, great team of guys. Had a good season, but then so many guys leave. We had guys leave, went to some AA schools. We had a good inside linebacker that went to Purdue. We had some game changers that left, and had they stayed with us, I mean, I'd like to think that we could have done even bigger and better things when we were at the academy. But a good story that when we were at prep school, and I think it was after we lost our linebacker, he went to Purdue. He told us he was leaving and going to Purdue. And do you remember those big round tables they had in the mess hall?
Oh, yeah.
So we're sitting around there eating it, and the football players naturally had congregated together. And I said, you know what? That's it. I mean, because I was already all in on West Point. I was so tunnel vision on West Point. My oldest brother was a 3-year letterman. He graduated in 74. My brother Dan, he was captain of the 92 team. So all three of us all played Army football. So we were all in. So there was no choice for me. I'm going to West Point. And so I remember to the linemen or to the other Army players sitting at the big round table, I said, look, he's leaving, but you know what? I'm staying. At the end of the day, we all need to make a commitment to each other, and this is where we're going to be. We're staying here. We're sticking together for the next 4 years when we go to the academy. And we took one of the sugar containers, and we had this dream that we were going to the Sugar Bowl, even though at the time we didn't realize it probably wasn't possible for us. But I said there was 11 of us left, and we said we're the 11 from heaven, and we're all making a commitment to each other. We're sticking this out. We're seeing it through, and we're going to go to the Sugar Bowl. And I still got it. It's up in my closet. I got that same Sugar Bowl. We put tape around it. We wrote Sugar Bowl and the year on it, 1995. And that was our commitment to each other that we were going to see it through from start to finish for the next 4 years.
Joel, so that is such an awesome story because it's I'm sure most teams go through that, especially successful teams at the prep school. What do you remember your record at the prep school?
I think we lost 2 games. I don't remember.
Right. So you were 7-2, 8-2.
Yeah.
More success than failure at the
no
school,
doubt.
right?
No doubt.
Yeah. So, Joel, I got in trouble at the prep school. Imagine that. And I was like, man, I drank. Big deal. Like, why are they going to restrict me to my room? Why am I going to be – the only places I can go is to get food and to work out. Like, this is ridiculous. So I opened up my recruiting, and Benny K had something to say about that. So he brought me in, and Joel, he told me that story. I remember it because he sat across from me in his room. He told me that story about how guys had enough. Like, yes, you're always going to lose guys at prep school because it's our way to, like, it's almost like a free redshirt year for a lot of those guys. And he just said, famous Benny K quote, "What are you prepared to do?"
Amen.
Right? Amen. What are you prepared to do? And I was a little, because me and my dad had a similar conversation. Had I never gotten in trouble, would I have wanted to leave? Right? Everything was going good. I had a great prep school year. And I remember he came down, he told me, "What are you prepared to do?" And you know what? That was the day I committed to West Point, Joel.
Amen.
And I had a similar conversation with my team that said, "Hey, I'm here. And I promise you, if you guys all stay, we'll have success. But we all got to stay. We all got to make a commitment to each other." Josh McNary, Donovan Travis, all these guys, Chip Bowden, Pat Mealy, Kingsley Ahee, all these guys that had huge Rich King, huge positions on our senior season. But it was, what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to sacrifice?
You had some good dudes, some good players, man.
Benny K telling me that story about, him hearing of that story, right, of the 95 of your prep school, of like, hey, we're all going to sit at this table and we're all going to look at each other and say, hey, we're committing right now. Yeah. Right now. I didn't have a sugar. I kind of knew Sugar Bowl was kind of a question in 2006, but we always said we go on bowling. I wish I had a bowling.
You guys pulled it off, man. You guys definitely pulled it off your senior year, man. I remember watching you guys play, man. You were a stud, bro. You, McNary, man, you guys were studs, bro. You guys had some good horses, man. Some good players.
Yeah, no. But it was from that prep school year, though, Joe. And man, you lose players. You lose players at prep school, and you lose guys your freshman year, and you lose guys your.
You know what's funny? It's funny you talk about that because once in a while I see in some of the Twitter feeds where they talk about some of the guys that are leaving the academies or some of the guys that are leaving the prep school. And we just had this conversation, me and a bunch of my guys from my era. We just had this group, we're on a group text, and we had this conversation that these guys who are leaving before their junior year or they're leaving after prep school, and they say, I'd like to thank the coaches. I'd like to thank my brothers on the team. How are you calling them your brothers on the team if you're leaving? How are you calling them your brothers on the team if you're leaving? And half of them, they're going to go what, to a AA school, or they're not going to have the same opportunity. How you going to look them in the eye and say, these are my brothers? I'd like to thank my brothers, and oh, by the way, I'm checking out and leaving the door.
Yeah,
you ain't my brother. Get your ass out of here.
Yeah, Joel. So it's really, it comes from, they're just naive, right? They don't really know yet what it is to be a brother, right?
Totally agree.
It's almost like a catchphrase to them, you know?
Well, they don't have the long-term perspective. Everybody thinks they're going to the NFL. And dude, I'm a living testament that, dude, the NFL stands for not for long.
Yep.
You know, even someone like your boy McNair, I mean, he played a couple years, but dude, it's not for long. You ain't playing long. If you're not one of those guys if you're not one of the top 1, 2, 3% making real money, dude, you're cannon fodder. You are cannon fodder. They don't even know your name. So these guys, they come to the academy, whether they leave at the prep school, they leave at the academy, they think they're going to go somewhere else, they're going to have an easier pathway to the NFL. You don't, bro. You don't.
Yeah, I kind of always
play the long game and stay at the academy.
Yeah, I always kind of look at it as like, regardless of, look, at this point, right? In your time, you didn't have it, but if you're good enough, you can go to the NFL from West Point now.
Agreed.
Right? Huge,
totally
huge perk. Right? So there is no, oh, well, I'm going to go somewhere else because it's my only chance at the NFL. That is out of it. And you're exactly right. Most of these guys go to 1AA. They might go to a Big East, maybe an ACC school, but they really don't know. You don't really understand the brotherhood until you've gone through the brotherhood the entire time, and then you're kind of like, oh, this is what it's all about.
Totally agree. And at the end of the day, part of you can't fault them because you're talking about a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. Dude, think about how stupid you were back then. I mean, dude, I was probably the biggest douchebag out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you're so flipping young, man. You don't know your ass from a hole in the ground, bro. So I don't know, man. Everyone has a different path.
I had a similar talking point about this where, you can't fault these kids because they just don't know yet, right? They don't have the perspective, especially, we recruit, West Point's one of the most diverse, football teams. It's not just Southern Florida, Alabama, Georgia, right? It's all over the country. I mean, we recruit hard, and we try to find guys.
That's one of our best strengths, man. That's one of our best strengths as a football team and as a player, having dudes all over the country. It's like, man, seriously, you could probably travel anywhere in the country, and you're going to have someone that you can connect with. You could always find a place to sleep at one of your boys' house, even if you ain't there. His parents will let you there, whatever, man. That's one of the best things about Army is having guys from all over the country.
Yeah, Joe, I don't know how many buddies' houses you crashed at, but I'll tell you what, I ended up in Pennsylvania, New York, Massachusetts, Florida. I mean, Texas.
So I was fortunate because since I'm only 2.5 hours away, I mean, we used to stack my house at home. I mean, I think the record was either 24 or 26 guys that we brought home on a weekend. And where we lived, my mom, we owned this. It was a 3 or 4 bedroom or 3 or 4 unit house. The whole downstairs is where my mom lived, and there was 3 units upstairs. So we would get cots, and they'd sleep up in one of the units. They'd come down. My mom was Italian. I got 4 sisters. They would cook up a storm. I mean, we ate like fat men. Even when we brought skinny people home, we ate well. We all ate like fat men.
Yeah. Where exactly was that in? Was that in New York or New Jersey?
Yeah, Binghamton, New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
About an hour south of Syracuse.
Tell us a little bit about how you got to West Point, Joel, and how your journey to West Point, recruiting wise and stuff. Well, I guess you had the connections, right? You had the Army connections already.
So my oldest brother graduated 74. So my mom and dad got married young. Let's see, I'm the youngest of 7. So my oldest brother is 21 years older than me. So they had 5 kids, and then they decided to go on a hiatus, and then they had 2 accidents, Dan and Joel. So they had the older 5, my oldest brother, then 4 sisters. So my oldest brother is 21 years older than me. And I just grew up knowing only West Point. My older sisters who would go to West Point when my oldest brother was playing, they'd all share the stories about how awesome the Army games were going to West Point. And so I just grew up looking at Army football programs. And I sucked as a football player. I was trash. I was the skinniest, weak. I was a woodchuck. So, but somehow West Point was all I knew. And so I just knew I was going to go to West Point. And like my brother Dan, he gets recruited in high school. My brother Dan actually committed to Navy. And when he did that, I wouldn't talk to him about something. I said, "You're a traitor. You're a traitor." It's like, there's 2 things. People could say a lot of things about me, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care. But 2 things they always got to admit. Number 1, I'm a mama's boy. And number 2, I'm all Army. I'm all Army football. It is what it is. So my brother actually committed to Navy after he went to a Navy trip. He committed, and I wouldn't talk to him. I'm like, "You're a traitor. How could you do that? That's a slap in mom's face. How do you do that?" Well, he already committed to taking a visit to Army. And so he takes the visit to Army. And when Navy found out that he was going to go visit Army, Navy is just lighting up the phone, calling the house, harassing my mother to the point where she's upset. My head coach was upset. My head coach said, "You need to reevaluate this, Dan." And Dan goes and takes his trip to West Point, decommits, ends up committing to Army. Now there's peace and tranquility in my household. So my brother, I ended up playing varsity as a sophomore. How? I don't know, because I just sucked. I was trash. But as soon as the football season was over and my brother was going to be graduating, I knew it was time for me to step in the spotlight. So I just camped out in the weight room. I mean, you want to talk about, I'm absolute product of the weight room. So God gave me some natural ability. That's awesome. But if I didn't have a weight room, I never would have made it. Right when football season was over, my sophomore year, I was 6'3", 176, skinny as a rail. I grew an inch over the year. I got to 205. I started at tight end and defensive end. And I just knew I was going to Army. I don't know how, but I just knew. And so what happened was, let me backtrack for a second. I believe I was 7 years old. And my second oldest sister, Lucia, woke me up early in the morning, woke my brother Dan up, and she kidnapped us. She took us on a trip. Now, I don't know where we're going, but all of a sudden we end up at West Point. And my sister Lucia is like the second mother. She's awesome. And all she did was invest in Dan and me our entire lives. So I'm 7 years old, and I'm sitting in the car. I wake up. We're at West Point. And she takes us to Army. Now I already grew up only knowing Army, but now I'm actually there. And every single time I went to Army, I could go right now at Army. I could go to the parade ground. I could show you exactly where I stood and where I was standing. And I'm watching the passing review before the game. And I remember saying to myself, I don't know what all this is, but I know it's special and I want to be part of it. So it further solidified this is where I need to be. At the age of 7. Now, how the hell I was going to get there, I had no idea because I sucked at football. My grades weren't the greatest. It is what it is. We go to the Army game, go to the football game that day. It was awesome. But so that's solidified the deal. So every time I go back to West Point, I can show you exactly where I was standing and what I was thinking when I saw it at the age of 7. So my junior year, I ended up playing, doing well. Now it's my senior year. I get up to 225. I'm big man on campus, all that kind of good stuff. Now I'm getting recruited. And by any measure, I had to be the stupidest, dumbest recruit possible because as schools would come in, I would literally tell them I'm going to Army. I mean, how flipping stupid is that? Because what if I don't get in? my grades weren't the best. That's like, I mean, if it wasn't for my high school coach, he forced me to go on visits. I remember being I go to Penn State, right? So I'm at Penn State, and they just take us to the new facilities. They made this lounge area in the locker room. They expanded this. We're on the 50-yard line. They're expanding Beaver Stadium, so now to push them over 100,000. I'm like, oh wow, it's cool, it's impressive. I'm going to Army. I mean, I'm telling this Coach Williams, the guy who's recruited me. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. Oh, how'd you enjoy it? Oh, it's beautiful. It's awesome. Yeah. Now, if I get accepted to the Army, I'm gonna go to Army. I mean, what a douchebag am I? Who does that? Because what if I don't get in? I'm burning bridges and I don't even know it. I'm so stupid. So then Coach Seymour was recruiting me from Army. Coach Seymour actually graduated 2 years before my brother Ted. So he played with my brother Ted. So Coach Seymour recruited my brother Dan, recruited me. And, it's like when I took my official visit to Army, it's like, I'm home. This is where I got to go. Then they told me, like, hey, you know what? Your grades are borderline. You really got to go to the prep school. I looked at my senior football schedule and I didn't even heard about the prep school. No one ever told me anything about it. And then I look at my senior schedule. Notre Dame, Washington, Boston College. There was Syracuse at that time. They had dropped out before we got there. I mean, it was a stacked schedule. I said, oh, hell yeah, I'll go to the prep school. Because I wanted to play Notre Dame. Because I grew up loving Notre Dame. Now no one's allowed to speak their name around me because I hate them with a passion because I lost to them.
Joel, I'm the same way. I grew up loving Notre Dame, and I hate them now. So
do not talk to me about Notre Dame. So when I was coaching high school football, and players knew if you could be a Notre Dame fan, I don't care. But if you come through in that weight room, you come in that locker room, that shirt better be inside out, or you better change it. You don't want to see Notre Dame.
Yeah, I still remember when I was a kid, because I believe. So I was born in '88. And I believe Notre Dame won the national championship in '88.
Watched it, man. Loved it. Chris Zorich.
Yeah. So I had this teddy bear, but it was like a Velcro inside out. And if you put it inside out, it became a Notre Dame football. So you could reverse it into a teddy bear and then a Notre Dame football. And I remember I had that all the time. I even took I didn't take a visit. I went to go see Notre Dame, and it wasn't like an official visit or anything. But I still was like, I was like, oh, man, this place is awesome, blah, blah, blah. But when I took my visit to Army, I was like, oh, yeah. I called my dad on that Saturday. I mean, I slept on the ground in the barracks with the boys, And I called my dad that Saturday, and I was like, hey, I'm coming here. And he's like, all right. Calm down. Let's get home. Let's talk about it.
I mean, if anyone ever writes a book about what not to do when you're being recruited, I'll write the book because it's like I remember I'm at Syracuse. First of all, Syracuse, absolute crap hole of probably half, at least east of the Mississippi. Syracuse is a crap hole. So I'm up there and they're walking us out from one area to another. We came through the weight room, walking us across and going around campus. And I'm seeing this is when tie-dye is making their comeback. So I'm seeing this student protest, all the long-haired hippie chicks and the tie-dyes and the signs. And I just remember seeing this. I'm like, dude, I could never. I'm gonna beat their ass. I get it thrown. I'm literally thinking this thing through. Like, this is not the environment for me. So, like, you'd be polite to the coaches, like, oh yeah, yes sir, JK. Oh yeah, oh very nice. This is not laugh through my teeth. It's an absolute crap hole, and I don't want to be here, but I'm going to West Point. and at this point in time, it's not like I even got offered or anything. It's like I'm going to West Point. I didn't even have confirmation that acceptance or anything. So, but man,
you're living proof that if you only have a plan A, that's all that matters.
Right? There's some truth to that, bro. There's definitely some truth to that.
There is no plan B. The reason you don't plan for a plan B is because plan's A the only way it's going to happen.
You got to will it to happen and burn the bridges, bro.
Any other stories, Joel, about visits that you told them you were going to Army? Any other schools that you had?
I took so the one AA visit I took, I don't remember. I know Coach Deinhardt, my high school coach, made me take it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to do it. I went down to James Madison, and the coach there, like, he wanted me so bad that he said, "Hey, listen, I got a plane ticket. How about I fly back with you, and I'll come back and I'll meet with your mother." And I literally, like, it was like an awkward moment. I'm like, I'm like, come back with me for what? Like, this some, like, what? It was awkward. Like, why would you fly back with me? I couldn't understand this. I was confused. But the same thing. I told him too. Like, why would you fly back? I'm going Army. I mean, that's how stupid I was. It's just, I was the biggest douchebag, man. Absolute douchebag.
What was it like when you had made your decision and then, you start transitioning to going to prep school and then, getting ready early in your career at West Point?
Like I say, I am definitely the product of the weight room. If it wasn't for the weight room, I mean, so it's like, once I knew I was going to Army, it was just lift. I didn't always know what I was doing. I didn't have a father. I grew up, my father they got divorced when I was 7. So I had an absentee father. It's like I say, for me, I would tell my high school players when I coach them, you got to learn to flip the switch. And that means, like, you could have joking around with your boys, whatever, but the minute you get in the weight room, you got to flip the switch. As soon as football season was over my sophomore year, I just flipped the switch. And I literally I camped out in the gym every day. I didn't always know what I was doing. I'd watch people read things. I just knew I needed to lift heavy objects, pick them up, put them down, and get bigger and eat more food and that type of deal. So, and the same thing when I was at prep school. Steve, you remember that gym, that ghetto gym, and they'd lock it down. So there was times we used to sneak out. Some of us would sneak out and we would go and crawl through the window to go to the gym. This is after the football season, because then they'd have restrictions, couldn't go here. We used to sneak out and go do it. So in terms of preparation for me, I'm going to be honest with you. I got to be honest with the whole world, everyone watching this. If you think I was a great student, I wasn't. I was supposed to be the GOAT, and I got cheated out of it. It was very disappointing. But I could lift a lot of weight. I was a strong dude. Like my senior year, Mr. Hall and all the guys and the trainers, they always said that I was the first guy at Army that was over 300 pounds, because I played my senior year about 305. And I was just strong. And I just felt it. I felt like, like I could walk through a wall or something. I was just strong. And like Coach Swanger and all them, I mean, I was their guinea pig. Whenever they wanted to try a new piece of equipment or a new workout routine, I was always the guinea pig because I was the gym rat. Yeah, man, for terms of what I did once I got accepted and committed, for me, it's not like I went and studied harder, because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't. I just went and lifted harder and tried to become a better football player.
No, I mean, and Joel, you bring up a good point. It's I don't know if I would have ever ended up being the player I was if I went to a regular college with a lot of distractions, because, just like you talk about how, you weren't the best recruit or whatever, but it sounds like if you did go somewhere else, there'd be some distractions out there that would keep you from the mission or the focus. And, my parents say it, my wife says it, my sister says it, all the people that know me the closest are like, see, if you had to go to West Point for you to reach your full potential or reach a potential, because you would have been too distracted anywhere else. But the gym was an outlet, man.
No question about
that was.
But see, I need structure. I need discipline. Not that I'm I'm 100% self-motivated, no doubt. But I need structure. I need discipline. And I'll give you a classic example. When I got to Cincinnati in '96, I had to leave after training camp to go to Fort Sill. But when I was in Cincinnati that year, it was literally Dave Shula was the head coach. Now, Dave Shula was in his young 30s. I think at the time he was the youngest coach in the NFL. And he's out there running routes with the players. I mean, he was like a friend of the players. And I couldn't operate in an environment like that. When I got released from the military and I went back and joined Cincinnati, it was Bruce Coslett was the head coach. This is a guy who's off in the corner smoking cigarettes between drills. I couldn't operate under that. When I got to Indianapolis, You had Jim Mora. Jim Mora was an a-hole. He was a former drill sergeant before he went to back in the day. He was in the Marines. He was a former drill sergeant. A lot of people don't know that. He was strict. You don't do it right, run it again. Guess what? I was home. That's what I needed. I couldn't have the it was like taking that trip to Syracuse and you see all the Looney Tunes walking the streets. I can't have that. So I needed that structure and that discipline. Not that I'm, I need the external motivation, but that's where I thrive. I do better there. So there's no question. I was playing much better in Indianapolis than I was in Cincinnati. It's just an environment I do better. I came from a hard, structured high school. Then you go to Army, structured. And then when I went to the NFL, Cincinnati was a bad place for me. Indianapolis was 10 times better.
Yeah, I'm a product of the weight room as well, Joe. Like I'm an undersized linebacker, but man, I thrived in the weight room. I was going to be stronger. I was going to be faster. And I think a lot of it, right? You talk about you were at what, 6'3", 175 going into your junior year, sophomore year?
6'3", 176. And then I grew an inch and I probably averaged about 20 pounds each year.
Right, but you finished, right? Yeah. You finished your career at 305. Like that doesn't happen unless you're intrinsically motivated.
When I got discharged from the Army, I was 6'4", 333. And I was a tank. I was strong enough. So when I went back to Cincinnati, I was always averaging about 330. And then they wanted us a little bit lighter in Indianapolis. So I was usually averaging around 315, so 15-pound difference. But I mean, I got an honorable discharge. You know how David Robinson got too tall for the Navy? I got too wide for the Army. So I got an honorable discharge for being too big because height weight standards you're supposed to be 6'4", 222. I was 6'4", 333. So,
yeah, no, I don't even know that's a real thing, man. I think they made that up for you so you could go do other things.
Probably.
Because Joel, I'll tell you this right now. I'm 5'10". I'm supposed to weigh 184, 189, right? I'm still every bit of 235. Like I still play at middle linebacker. I still run 5 miles, 40 minutes at middle linebacker size. So
you're 10 times tougher than me, bro, because you can run 5 miles. I'll run about, 5 feet. Then I'm gonna rupture my spleen.
Now, hey, Joe, you talk about it too. I got the privilege of playing with one of the most God-given, gifted people is Ali Villanueva, right? 6'10". He played at 333, 335 his junior year. Shrunk down to 275 to play wide receiver because Coach Ellerson said, "Hey, you can't be that big tackle in the triple option offense, right?" So I got to find a different position. He ended up doing it. Ali played for the Ravens last year. I know there's some trade talks with him right now and stuff, but same kind of thing. Ali was a Ranger Regiment platoon leader, served in the 10th Mountain Division as a platoon leader in the infantry, right? He agreed, me and him talk quite frequently, especially now he was a Raven. I'm a diehard Ravens fan, so that was easy. We had him on the podcast. Sal got him on. It was great. But he's the same way, structure, right?
He's someone who's freaking, man, that dude, he's first of all, being 6'10", dude, what do you do with that? But what's funny is that my brother and my brother Dan, we had gone to one of the games when you guys were playing. He comes out and we were standing. I know exactly where we were standing. Where you guys came out of the tunnel is different than where we did when I was there. So where you guys came out of the tunnel, we were standing in those stands. We could see him coming out. So when he came out, I said to my brother, I said, dude, what in the hell is this guy doing at receiver? I said, he needs to be playing left tackle in the NFL. Boom. What's he end up doing?
Yeah.
But I mean, dude,
yeah. I actually we got to link up last May, so almost a year ago. He finally, he just came to Maryland. I took him. We went to my brother's restaurant in Annapolis. And it just so happened to be like whatever A-Day Navy does or whatever, there was all these midshipmen walking around, and we were just looking at them like, man, you guys are so soft. It's not even close. Like me and Ellie.
It's
But
funny.
I go to hug him because I hadn't seen him in 3 years, 4 years. I go to give him a hug. You know, my wife's I'm like, Ollie, get off me, dude. All right, you're a foot taller than me. I'm you know what I mean? Like, get off
That's
this.
a big dude, man. That's a big dude. It's funny you mentioned Navy, man, because I'll tell you one thing, man. Is with us losing the Navy, Navy's always unacceptable. Losing the Navy is unacceptable. And that's one of the best things that we did is that we always beat Navy when I was there. We beat Navy all 4 years by a total of 6 points. 2 years by 2, 2 years by 1. So every game came down to the end, but you got to pull it out. So I'm gonna tell you right now, if there's one thing, I love Army football. I love Coach Monken and everything. Love it. There's one thing that needs to happen, and I don't watch a whole lot of press conferences or anything like that, but I saw that one punk middle linebacker there. I think you guys pronounce it Fagu. However you want to pronounce it, I don't care. But at that end, if you see in that press conference where he said, "We're Army," they say they're the last of the hard. He said they ain't the last of the hard. They're our little brother. You catch that? Okay, that needs to be played on loop. So every time you walk in the locker room, every time you walk in the weight room, that little snippet needs to be played on loop. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if there's something that would have fired me up for the upcoming season, that's it. Some Navy dude saying I'm your little brother. Nah, homie.
Yeah, you know, as guys that believe we're intrinsically motivated, that we don't need any external motivation. Thank you, Fago, for that. I mean, Sal, me and you talked about that. I couldn't believe the audacity of Fago to just go on a press conference to talk publicly. You know, you want to say that in your locker room. You want to say that, you know, to guys that think you guys are hot shit, whatever, your 4-9 season or whatever it was, right? But to go on and just media clip, you know, the last of the hard, what have you done?
It's not the first time you did it. Something.
I respect that you did it because you gave me that video clip so I can play it on a loop. Now, but I'm gonna make you pay for it. Now, granted, he's leaving. Okay,
he's going in the NFL. We'll see how that goes.
Maybe, I mean, that I would be playing that on loop, man. That would fire me up, man. Because if there's one thing,
a little admission here. I went back and started looking at how good Fago was. He's not very impressive. I don't know if I'm an outlier, if I don't know what NFL talent is or even college talent is, but I did not think he was very good at playing linebacker. And I like to believe that I know a little bit about it.
He did play in that All-Star game and had a big hit that was on social media, but we'll see what happens. Is he going to get drafted? I don't think so. We'll see what happens. I thought Nolan Cockrell was going to get drafted.
I can honestly say I don't. I only watched him play once, and that was against Army because I don't watch Navy. I mean, I know, like if you watch the Army Navy game, all the pregame, all halftime, all the announcers talk about how Army and Navy, they're on different teams, but then we're brothers after the game. No, we're not. I'm not your friend. I'm never going to be your friend. You can hate me because I hate you. I don't care. I'm not going to dine and break bread with you. Same thing goes for Air Force. The only time I'll root for Navy is when they play Notre Dame. And the reason why is because I beat Navy 4 times. So had I not beat Navy, maybe my attitude would be different. But
who you got when Navy plays Air Force?
I still hate Air Force. I'll root for Navy more than Air Force.
It's just, Sal, it holds true no matter who you are, no matter what decade you play. Air Force is just so different. It's just, like, man.
They are.
There's even more arrogance from Air Force than there is from Navy.
I totally agree. Yeah. The one thing I did respect about Air Force this year, man, they had those big 2 interior guards. I mean, they embraced the fat man at Air Force. I mean, you cannot have those big 320, 330-pound guards and not say you don't appreciate fat people. Because, I mean, but you're talking about when I was at West Point, we started the Fat Man's Club.
Yep.
And I mean,
I wonder, Sal, and I'd be interested if, this is kind of blasphemy right now, but I'd be interested to hear if anybody thinks Army is arrogant like Navy, and like Army players truly believe Air Force are just truly arrogant players through and through. Navy, we just don't like, right? They're just
you got to
we just don't
respect
like.
there. You got respect with Navy a little bit, you know.
Yeah. But I'd be interested if there's an Air Force or a Navy player that would talk about Army's arrogance. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all.
I think there would be, because I think Army, to be honest with you, I think in the last couple of years, minus the, you know, the one season where they struggle a little bit, plays with swag, right? They play with some swag, Steve, a little bit, right? Those guys are out there making plays, and some guys are, hey, after a good play, they celebrate. You know, you got your secondary guys who Malcolm Morrisons and the Markel Broughtons who play with it a certain amount of energy.
Making statements and chirping after a play is different than going in front of the media, right? I don't see Army players go in front of the media and just kind of chirping away at Navy and Air Force. But you know,
you know what? Real quick, I remember when I was covering the team, right? Victor Ugening, and I used to do these questions. The same questions on Army Air Force Week. I asked like Chad Hall of Air Force and Victor Ugening of Army, and what makes the teams different. And Ugening said something to the effect, well, in the summers we're training and they're either like marching or behind a desk or something like that. You know, right. The Air Force, right? That was his thing. And he was, you know, Victor. I mean, he was a character. So
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Me and Vic were captains together, and I remember that because when you did what Vic did, he was out in the field, and when you did what the other guy did, he was like doing like what do you call it? Oh my God, it's like enclosure golf, where you hit the golf ball like into a thing, and it tells you how far it goes. Anyway, Joe, back to
how long
back
have you
to the
how long
rivalry and everything. One thing I always ask previous players is kind of the transition from when they went from freshman and sophomore to now junior and senior, kind of like following how the team went to now leading where the team needed to go. And that transition, you know, you're at 95 captain, so you know it's awesome, but we all know that's a by committee type deal. So if you can kind of talk to us about our transition from, you know, when you went from like an underclassman to an upperclassman, and you know what changed, what stayed the same, intensity wise, coaching wise, anything like that.
When it's funny, man. So when I lettered as a plebe. I think there was like I don't know. I think there were like 3 or 4 of us tops that lettered as plebes. I played in, you know, probably half the games as a plebe, because I came in as so when I was at prep school, when I came up and met with Coach Sutton, he said, "Hey, do you want to stay at tight end or do you want to play defensive end with your brother?" I said, "I'll play defensive end." So I made the transition. Now, when I was at prep school, I was a tight end, and ironically enough, as a tight end, I won the Lineman of the Year award, which pissed off all the other linemen. But hey, I could block my ass off. It is what it is. So, so he asked me, "Do you want to play D end with your brother, or do you want to play tight end still?" I said, I'll go D end. So that's first. So I played D end, and one of the coolest things is that that Army Navy game, we were losing. We were losing by, if I recall correctly, we were losing by 19 going into the fourth quarter. But what happened? So we're getting kind of like smacked around pretty good that whole first half. And we come out the second half. And this is Navy game, the biggest stage that we got year to date. And I had already played in a couple games, but nothing, you know, overwhelmingly long. But this time, they put me in pretty much right after the half. They put me in, so I'm playing alongside my brother, and he was at right defensive end. I'm at left, and so I come out and I'm like, dude, like I don't know what I'm going to do. All I know is I can't get blown up and I can't get driven off the ball. And then it was like the second play I was in, I veered, went across the tackle's face, made a tackle for a loss. And I'm like, dude, I'm warmed up. Let's go. And so after that series, I'm on the sideline. Now, mind you, my brother, he's team captain. He's a senior. Well, the guy who his best friend, Chris Kaczynski, he was the tackle who was ahead of me. So I kind of backed up the Chris Kaczynski. And so after I played that series and I got a little taste of it, it's ready. Offense comes out, they do 3 and out, whatever, and then they end up sending the defense back out. But so Chris Kaczynski puts his hand on my chest and says, "Hey, don't worry, I got this. I'm back in." Well, I already have a taste of it, so I'm not going out like that. So I said to the defensive coordinator, I said, "Coach Dornbos," I said, "who do you want? Do you want me or him?" He puts his headset down and he calls up the Perry Fuel, the defensive line, and it seemed like an eternity to get an answer. He goes, "Perry, who do you want?" And it seemed like an eternity. I'm like, "Pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me." And so finally he flips it up. He goes, "David Sharin." I'm like, boom. So I go in and I end up finishing the game. And we end up coming back and we win. That's the year that we talk about. We had to beat Navy twice because with 12 seconds left, we kick a 44-yard field goal. Pat Malcolm nails it right down the middle. They throw a flag for a delay of game. They back it up. He kicks it again for 49. We end up winning. So my brother is leaving. My brother graduates. So it was just like high school. He graduates, and as soon as he goes, I know I got to elevate my play. So I know I'm coming in next year. I'm going to start. So I come in as a sophomore, and I end up starting, have a good year at defensive end. Played with Jim Slomka was the other defensive end. Great dude. Jim Slomka and Gary Graves at nose guard. So great guys. And then what happened was my junior year, Coach Sutton calls me in. And we had the class of 94, great dudes. I mean, these guys took care of me as plebes. I mean, just great dudes, man. I love them, man. The guys in 94. So we had a big offensive line my sophomore year, but then they all graduated. The only returning starter my junior year was going to be Ed Stover. So Coach Sutton calls me in and says, "Hey, listen," and I thought I was in trouble. Calls me up to the office. I got to walk up the hill to the stadium. So I'm like,
"That's no joke. That's no small hill."
I know. So I'm like, damn, like I'm going through my head, like, what did I do wrong? What trouble did I get into? I didn't know I got into. So I get up there. He says, "Listen, how would you feel about playing offensive line?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I haven't played offensive line, but ultimately I'll do whatever you tell me to, Coach." He goes, "But there's a catch." I was like, son of a B. I'm like, "What's the catch?" He goes, "We also need you to play nose guard too." I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, we need you to play both." Because I was at this point in time, I was like the biggest guy on the team now. I mean, I was getting bigger and bigger on the offseason. So my junior year, I started at left guard, and it was either 7 or 8. No, it was 8 out of the 11 games. I also played some nose guard. And the irony is, here's the funny thing, is that I remember we played Rutgers in the Meadowlands that year. We lost by 2. And if I recall correctly, there was no lineman that got Ranger team that week. We just didn't produce. We lost by 2. I got Ranger team as a nose guard instead of being a lineman. So then what happened is after as soon as the 94 season was over, you come in, you have the final team meeting in Washington Hall, and you say goodbye to the seniors. You're a little emotional. You love them, but hey, it's over. You got to turn the page now. As soon as they left, I remember I got up. Jim Cantaloupe got up. We closed the doors behind them, and boom! Now it's our time to take over and be full-time captains. And the beautiful thing, and I always tell this to people, probably the biggest honor I have was being elected team captain, because I remember my brother, when he was team captain, they used to switch captains each week. And then I think the coaches just appointed it at the end of the season. Whereas my year was the first year where the players actually voted for it. So knowing that your players that you play with and your brothers, that they voted for you, I mean, that was the greatest honor I had. No question. So that's how I ended up becoming team captain. But here's what's cool about that. I'll tell you a little backstory, is that my oldest brother Ted, his last game playing Navy, they got shellacked. They got beat up pretty good. So he told me the story. It was actually about a year ago. He was home and he told me the story of how he was the last person out of the locker room. He was crying. It was the last game. He was off. He was playing left guard. So he comes out. My brother Dan would have been 2. I would have been less than 1. So he comes out, meets my mother, my father, my sisters, and he picks us up. And what's cool about that is that he picks up Dan and he picks up me. It's his last game. He loses to Navy. And what's cool about that is he's sitting there holding us. And little do you know, God has a sense of humor because 20-something years later, he's holding 2 future Army football captains.
Yeah, good stuff. We have a comment from one of our viewers here, watchers. He said he was at the Rutgers game at the Meadowlands, remembers that offensive run right down the center of the field for a TD.
Probably ran me over.
He wants you to talk about the Notre Dame game, Joel.
Oh, man, that is so hard.
Do you want to talk about the Notre Dame game?
So Notre Dame, man. Notre Dame, I mean, we were favored to lose. This is a great story. So here's what I always did for my games. So back, I don't know how it was with you, Steve, or what they do now, but you'd have your Monday meetings and you'd get your press releases and everything on the scouting report, right? So what my tradition was, I take the scouting report and I cut out the picture of the player I'm playing against. I go to the secretaries, have them make me copies. I always put one on my mirror in the barracks. I put one inside my hat, and I always put one inside my pocket. So every day that week, he traveled with me. So, I mean, there wasn't a bigger game for us in Notre Dame. We were favored to lose by like 3 or 4 touchdowns. And so that entire week, I knew that Paul Grass-Manis, he was the guy. He was the all-world nose guard. And, I mean, we played well against him. We smashed his mouth. And so he ended up – so all week, I would literally – I'd walk. I'd take my hat off. I'd look at him. I'd meditate on him. All week, I listened to this song, 9 Inch Nails. I want to F you like an animal. I want to F you like an animal. I just kept – I mean, I did. I meditated.
Closer. Yeah.
So this is a great story. So I end up so we played Notre Dame. We're supposed to lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns, the biggest heartbreak of my life. I'm still so thankful we went for 2 because back then you don't have the overtime rules like you do now. I'm a firm believer. Live on your feet. Don't die on your knees. We went for the 2-point conversion. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. Hardest heartbreak of my life. So my senior year, I get invited to go play in the East-West Shrine game. My roommate was Pete Kendall, tackle from Boston College, goes first round to Seattle. So the first night we're there, we're at this big round table eating dinner, and people are finishing dinner, and they're starting to get up and leave. And Pete Kendall's sitting next to me to my right, and he's talking to this dude across the way. He's wearing an Air Force hat. And I'm like, dude, who the hell is this dude from Air Force? I can already tell I don't like you, but I didn't see nobody on the roster from Air Force. Well, come to find out, I'm picking up a conversation. Honest to God, true story. Absolutely crazy. I said, wait a minute. I put 2 and 2 together by the conversation he was having with Pete Kendall. I said, wait a minute. You're Paul Grass-Manis from Notre Dame. He goes, yeah, I'm Paul Grass. I said, I'm Joel Davis, left guard from Army. He goes, yeah, I know who you are. You kicked my ass the whole game. I'm telling you, time stood still. I mean, because look, when you have a grown-ass man tell you to your face that you kicked my ass the whole game, I mean, I don't know what I said how I possibly came back or what I said, but I remember like being so. That's the last thing. I mean, I would have expected him to say, oh, yeah, tough game, tough loss, good fight, this and that. But to outright say, yeah, man, I know who you are. You kicked my ass the whole game. I don't know what I said, but time stood still. I was shocked.
Joe, if I had to guess, you probably like, yeah, I did.
But man, there was look, it was, man, I say this jokingly to a lot of my teammates when I say my life would be different had we beaten them, because had we beaten them, I probably still would like Notre Dame. My players who I coached, they probably could have wore their Notre Dame shirts, but that's one game. If anyone asks me what's the game I wish I had, that's it. And it's funny is that recently, a couple years ago, I went back and I went and talked to the prep school, and it was when Woolfolk was there as a GA. And I already knew what he was going to say. And I was talking to the kids, and I kind of told them that story. And I said, the moral of the story is you make them speak your name. You make your enemies speak your name. You make your coaches, you produce so well that your coaches speak your name. And I said to Woolfolk, I called him out. I already knew what he was going to say. I said, you tell him right now, what was the hardest loss that you had to suffer? Without a doubt, without hesitation, he said Oklahoma. And I knew he was going to say that because his Oklahoma was our Notre Dame. You know, you could have won. You should have won. You were right there, but it just didn't happen. But at the end of the day, you still don't regret playing those games. And like I told the players, I'd rather lose with them than be on the other side of the field and win with them. That's the brotherhood right there. Win, lose, or draw. I used to literally, I used to talk about this with Ed Stover. Ed Stover was the right guard. He's also my illegitimate son. But like when we would take the bus ride from the hotel to the stadium, I'm sure the average person would be visualizing how they're going to do a play. I never did. I would put on some hard music and I just envision what? Screw the helmet, screw the pads. Let's all just meet up on the 50-yard line and let's just fight. I mean, I literally had to, I know it's barbaric. I know I sound like a Neanderthal, but that's literally, I'm just being honest with you. It's like, I didn't visualize, this is how I'm going to do this play. I didn't. I'm like, let's just fight. I knew that, a lot of times when we play guys, they're going to have bigger, faster, stronger guys. That's cool. Let's fight. That's kind of like I totally admit it sounds like Neanderthal, but that's where I was. So when I was playing O-line, that was my mentality that if I get my hands on you, that was the whole goal. Get my hands on you. I'm always going to win. If I got my hands on you, I was going to win.
But it goes back to, tribe mentality, man. I mean, you can say it's not Neanderthal or whatever, but it's like, I know the boys I'm with.
Amen.
Right? The guys I got behind me, the guys next to me. There is no doubt that if all these guys line up against you guys on the 50-yard line, there's no way, there's nobody that would ever take anybody else.
Amen.
Because Joel, just like you told me when I was 18 years old, no matter what, do it for the guy on the left and right of you.
Amen. Amen.
All right? That's it. That's all at the end of the day. Do it for the left linebacker and the right linebacker while you're playing middle. All right?
There was
you can say you didn't visualize, you can say, but you did all that prep, all that visualization was done during the week when you had that guy in your hat, your mirror, your locker, the bathroom, at the stadium, right? There's something to be said about preparation and just that mentality of refusal, right? There's no way I'm going to show up on Saturday, right? I got too much to lose. I got my boy to my left and right that is working his ass off as well. And I'll be damned if he's going to look at me like I'm slacking.
See, my thing is that when they transitioned me and I started playing O-line, for me, it was all just a physical game. And with the triple option, it was all physical. If I got my hands on you, you were done.
Yeah.
If I stayed at nose guard, I probably would have played in the NFL longer. Nose guard, I love nose guard. Nose guard is awesome. It's a badass position. I love it. But when you play O-line, there's something very magical and special about fitting up, helmet down the middle, get your hands under the pads, drive blocking them, pancaking them, and then hear the air, the life come out of his lungs. That is an orgasmic feeling. It really is. And I know that sounds shit. And so, but here's what's funny is that so I thought, like at West Point, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna get bigger and stronger, and I'm gonna dominate more. So then now, fast forward, now you go to the NFL. That's not how the NFL is. The NFL is, dude, it's technique. I mean, don't get me wrong, you gotta be physical still, but it's technique. And that's something that it was difficult to try to adjust to for someone like me. But when I got, like I say, when I went to O-line, it was like, all right, I'm just gonna keep getting bigger. I'm gonna, dominate even more because if I got my hands on you, you were done. It was just, and that's here I am. I'm 48, so I'm an old man over the hill. But even now, you miss that physicality. I mean, you miss being with your boys, you miss the camaraderie, but it's like, I still work out. I'm not saying I'm in shape. I'm not as strong as I used to be, but you know what? It's like, I would still love to just fit up on someone and hear the air come out of them. You know, it's that physicality that you miss.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about that because I was talking to Benny K today, and he said, remind Joel about that Oklahoma drill that we did where I knocked him on his ass and asked him about that. So I was looking for the right time to bring it in, Joel, and that seemed like the perfect leeway.
Yeah,
so please tell me about this Oklahoma drill.
I promise you that I'm telling you, that's a mythological story right there. That never happened. Now, but see, here's how special Benny K is. Here's how special Benny K is. People, like I said, we used to always bring guys back to my house. Fat man, we used to roll deep. Benny K was one of the few skinny people who rolled with the fat man. Benny K was a great dude. So he was able to come back to Casa Davis and eat with Mama Davis and everything. So yeah, man, Benny K, great dude, man.
I want to talk a little bit about the Fat Man's Club. We'd be remiss if we didn't. Talk about how that started, Joel, and the camaraderie. And you talk about the camaraderie around the team, but that offensive line is a specific group where you got to be a really tight bunch, especially in the offense you guys played in, right?
So it was right after our junior year, and what's going to change? I mean, I think we finished 4-7 as juniors. That's unacceptable. We even lost to Boston University. Who does that? It's just not an option. Failure is not an option, and we failed. And that's one thing that I used to say and tell people is like, when we lose, you can complain that the coach called this. No, I get all that. But you know what? We are responsible for executing. And I didn't get my job done. You didn't get your job done. And that's where it doesn't matter what play is called. If you execute it properly, we could be successful. Bottom line, we didn't get it done our junior year. It wasn't good. It wasn't acceptable. So Ed Stover, my illegitimate son, he came home. He came back to Binghamton with me. And we were just talking about, like, look, dude, we need to separate ourselves. We need to separate I'm talking Army football. We need to separate ourselves and make ourselves special. And you know what needs to be special? The linemen need to be special. So we actually thought about, we need to pattern ourselves after, was it the 85 Hogs out of Washington, the Redskins. So we need to come up with our own thing. And Stover, actually, my illegitimate son, actually came up with the Fat Man's Club. So we literally, while he was home, we went down. We had a bunch of hats made up, embroidered FMC. And I mean, it just took off. And we started to have criteria. You had to weigh a certain amount. You had to have an act of fatness. You need to be able to bench press a certain amount. And it was special. And it went on for several years until that coach who came in after Sutton, whose name we do not speak of. We do not mention his name. He's the one that took us back to the dark ages. So that coach that came in, he eradicated all that. And but the Fat Man's Club was, I mean, people still talk about it. So it does have, an effect that does live on, which I'm glad to see. And I see guys who I don't even know, and they're wearing an FMC. And there were several years after me. They got an FMC shirt that they had made. I mean, you love that. But bottom line is the FMC helped transition us. And if you read that book, A Civil War, Ronnie Makeda talks about that, how that spring, Ronnie Makeda, he came, I remember we were in the spring ball. Ronnie Makeda comes out. He's facing the huddle, and he's saying something. I don't remember what he was saying. He's trying to get us all fired up. Now, again, I'm self-motivated, so you don't need to give me a fiery speech. And if I'm effing something up, just tell me. I'm going to fix it. And then the other thing is, don't touch my freaking helmet. Don't ever, when you're cheering people on, don't freaking hit my helmet. I'm going to punch you in the face. So Ronnie is hit us in the helmet, and Stover, my illegitimate son, said, Ronnie, shut up and call the play. He said, Ronnie, shut up and call the play. Well, Ronnie's still being cheerleader. And then I grabbed Ronnie. I said, Ronnie, shut the F up and call the play. And if you read the book, that's where Ronnie Makeda mentioned the book. That's when I realized it's not my team. It's the lineman's team. Because we took over. And look, we finished the season 5-5-1. We lost close games with Notre Dame, Washington, Rice, all that kind of nonsense. So was it the season that we wanted in terms of finishing up at a bowl game? No. But at the end of the day, it was still special to us. But here's what's funny about here's the interesting story. when I was a plebe, it was during training camp as a plebe, and the locker rooms were far different than they are now. And they used to have all these pictures along the wall with different awards and all that kind of stuff in a different area. Again, the whole thing has been renovated. So my brother, ironically enough, is walking out of the locker room to this hallway where they had some pictures, and he saw me looking. And I said, "What's that award right there?" And I forgot the name of it. He goes, "Oh, that's for the most improved player. Trust me, you don't want that. If you get that award, that means you're on scout team for a couple years and then you became good." I'm like, "All right, yeah, I don't want that. I want to be a player right now." Okay. So that was as I was a plebe during training camp. And then ironically enough, it was my last spring ball. I never took spring break because I was about football. I want to go home. I want to train, get ready for spring ball. So after spring ball, and I had a great spring. Now, mind you, I've already lettered as a plebe. I was a starter as a sophomore. I went both ways as a junior. Now spring ball, my senior year, we finish up. I have a great spring ball, and then we have a banquet after spring ball, and they give out that award. And I'm like, and so Coach Sutton starts talking about it, and I thought he was going to give it to Doug Chadwick, the guy who was my backup, and he also backed up Stover, my illegitimate son. So I thought he was going to give it to Doug Chadwick. I'm getting ready to clap for Doug Chadwick. Then he calls me out, and I'm like, well, damn. And I'm like thinking, like, okay, my brother told me you never want that because that means that you were a scout team player before. I'm like, damn, I must have sucked for the first 3 years I was here. I led it as a freshman. I started as a sophomore. I went both ways as a junior. I sucked. I sucked as a player because now I got the most improved player award.
Crazy. Hey, a lot of people say that 95 team was better than the 96 team.
Yeah, Sal, that's what I was just about to bring up is that that was one thing that Ronnie was very, very adamant about is that 95 team was no joke, legit with talent. The schedule was legit. And he just said, you know what? Sometimes it takes a team like that to propel the next guys to take that next leap. And he fully, like, when we had him on, there was no doubt that he said that if it was not for that 95 season, there's no way that 96 team could have been as successful as they were. Coming from a guy, Joel, this is hard for me to admit, and I don't know if I've ever said this, but look, 0-4 against Air Force, 0-5 because we played against Navy Prep. I'll count it. 0-5 against Navy. So in all aspects, in your mind, I'm a fucking loser if we're gonna be true. Now I was able to end it on a bowl game win, right? So I was able to
I was at that
on
game.
a high note.
I was at that game.
But Ronnie talked about that 95 team had depth, it had talent, it had guys across the board that was no joke. It was not time to showcase that ability. And you guys showed the 96 guys, the juniors, how to be winners, how to be relentless. And that's ultimately what propelled that team. And
what happened was
and Ronnie said it. I mean, he was straight up. He was like, look, without those 95 seniors, there's no way that 96 team goes what they do and does what they do.
A couple things. Number one, I certainly aren't going to take anything away from those 96 boys because number one, I'm talking 97.
Number one, Joel, is Ronnie, shut up, call the play. All right, right? That's number one.
Those guys from 97 who played the 96 season, I mean, those are probably the two closest classes, my year and their year, because even nowadays, I mean, they're indistinguishable. When we get together for tailgates or whatever, it's indistinguishable. So, I mean, I'm definitely flattered by the fact that they think that and believe that and that we help contribute to their success in 96. But kudos to them at the end of the day because I love them all. I mean, they're just a great bunch of dudes, man. So kudos to what they did. But here's an awesome story is that it was the Monday after We beat Navy my senior year. The Soup called me and Jim Cantaloupe in. Jim Cantaloupe was the defensive captain. So he calls us.
Do you remember the Soup's name?
You had to ask me. I forgot. No reflection on him, bad or indifferent. I just don't remember. If you said it, I would know it. I don't even remember. But he calls us to the office, and we go see him that Monday. I'm almost positive it was that Monday right after the game. But basically, he wants our opinion, Jim Cantaloupe and me. He says, hey, asks us congratulates us on the win, season, all that kind of good stuff, asks us a couple questions. And he gets down to brass tacks, and he says, what would be your thoughts? Would you vote to keep Coach Sutton, or would you vote to let him go? And without hesitation, both Lupe and I both said, no. He needs to stay. You leave Coach Sutton here. Coach Sutton needs to stay because we told him these guys are right there at the precipice. They're about ready to punch through the door. They're going to take it through. And then thankfully it happened. But here's I'll even give you another tidbit. This is another great, interesting story that very few people know. I had the honor to go to the Soup and be able to take Coach Sutton's back. When I was at prep school, again, when I was at West Point, I was supposed to be the GOAT, and I got cheated out of it. My senior on graduation day, I thought I was going to win a couple grand. We're marching up to the stadium. I'm celebrating like I just became the GOAT, and I realized that I got cheated. That someone beat me by 0.003. So I was disappointed because back then, thousands of dollars is a lot of money. So I was disappointed. Well, guess what? When I was at prep school, you know how Steve, you said you got in trouble at prep school. Very few people know this. I actually got kicked out of prep school and reinstated the same day. I actually, when they were giving the assignments and confirmations to West Point, so what happens is I come back, and there was always a race. You would leave your last class to come back for lunch. You go to your company area. You look on the board. This is in the Soup, and you would look because if your name was on the board, you had to go see the Soup. This is at prep school. So fast, go back in time. I'm at the prep school. If your name was on the board, you go see the Soup. And if you go see the Soup, you know you didn't make the cut for academics. You got to go. So I'm beating it every day. I'm coming by. I'm like, damn, I beat it. I beat it again. Well, sure enough, we get to the last count. I come back. My name's on the board. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, I didn't make it. So I go see the Soup. He tells me, he's like, hey, I'm so sorry to tell you this. This is a really good story. He goes, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but, my heart goes out to you. You're just a great, great guy and a great player, and I know you're going to do well. And, I mean, he's more broken up about it than I am. But regardless, I leave his office. I go straight across. I go back to Coach Nelson's office. I don't go to the company or anything. So this is lunchtime. I go straight back across. I go to Coach Nelson's office. I go in. I said, hey, I just got kicked out for academics. He's like, what? No one told me about this. This wasn't supposed to happen. I said, well, I'm just telling you I got kicked out. I said, as a minimum, can you at least call Syracuse, see if I can get back in the Syracuse crap hole of the world? So Coach Nelson is, and mind you, there's no cell phones back then. There's no nothing like that. So I'm sitting in his office for hours upon hours upon hours. Coach Nelson is trying to make phone calls up to West Point. He doesn't understand what's going on. Well, here's the irony of what happened. I don't make the cut academically. One of the coaches, I don't remember who it was, told my brother, who's a junior, that I was getting kicked out because I didn't make the cut academically. My brother leaves the cadet area, goes up to the hill, goes up and sees Coach Sutton, goes to Coach Sutton and says, Coach Sutton, I'm telling you, my brother is going to be an impact player. I'm telling you, my brother is going to make a difference. You need to do whatever's necessary to get my brother in here. All the while, I'm sitting in Coach Nelson's office, not knowing that any of this is going on. Coach Sutton is calling down and getting an appeal on my case to get another hearing, to get it extended, that to give me another window of opportunity to further increase my grades. So Coach Sutton falls on the sword for me, gets another hearing to postpone me getting kicked out. So it's late at night now. I've already missed dinner. the AD, I forgot his name. He comes in, bursts into Coach Nelson's office, white as a ghost, and says, "Hey, did you tell anybody you got?" He bursts in. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing. I'm sitting here." He goes, "Did you tell anybody you got kicked out yet?" I said, "No, you haven't given me the chance yet." He goes, "You're still a cadet candidate. We got an appeal on your case. You still got time. Go back to your cadet area. You're still a cadet candidate." But I forgot what the metric was. I had to improve my grades, my academics by a certain metric. I don't remember what it was, a certain window. So time goes by, like let's say another 2 months or whatever. And I'm sitting in the dining hall one day. The commandant, a cadet, comes in, or the superintendent there at the prep school. He comes in, bends over, whispers in my ear, and says, "Congratulations, you're going to be a cadet at West Point." So then I stood up and he gave me a hug and everything. So Coach Sutton, my brother fell on the sword for me. Coach Sutton fell on the sword for me. So no sooner does that Monday come after we beat Navy, I'm able to go in and fall on my sword for Coach Sutton and say, "Nope, he needs to stay here." So that was an absolute honor for me to be able to do that. And that's glory to God right there. That's God working in supernatural ways. And I know people watching this. I know people who watch this and say, "Well, wait, West Point, duty on their country, and you didn't make the." Say all you want. Say all you want. I get it. I know I know some people will look down on me because I wasn't a star man or any of that nonsense. But no. At the end of the day, I was an Army football player. I'm glad I went to West Point. I have no regrets that I played Army football by any means necessary, whether I got kicked out and I have no problem sharing that story because you know what? There's going to be someone else out there. They don't think there's a way. They don't think there's a pathway. Just like we talked about at the beginning, you will it to happen. There's always a way. By any means necessary, you find it.
Yeah, and I think people get wrapped around the cadet, the West Point officer, right? It's just not. What it comes down to is the brotherhood, man, and I'll tell you what, it always. Even as I see these young guys, Joel, we talked about it earlier. These two sophomores wanted to leave. Sal, right? We talked about it, 2 months ago now?
Yeah, probably. It was right after the bowl game. Pretty much a week
right
after the bowl game or something like that. Yeah.
We had two young sophomores. The running back and the receiver.
Yeah.
Tyrell Robinson and Isaiah Austin. Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, "Hey, you know what? Not about this life." Right? They went public with it, and guess what? What was it, 2 weeks, Sal?
Yeah, it was within probably less. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks or less. Hey, no, we're staying because they probably realized that nobody's going to give anything about them more than the people at the academy. All right, Joel, you had your brother there. If it wasn't your brother, I guarantee you somebody would have known something about you. It would have been another player at prep school. It would have been another player that knew about you from where you played football at in your home state. They would have fought for you. And I went through the same thing, man. I had Coach Bobby Ross came down. Coach Kawika talked to me, right? They were like, no. You don't. You're 18 years old. You don't know what you're talking about. Let us show you, at least try West Point. And I've never been so just that I understood what it meant to have somebody fight for you. Because, I was right there with you, Joel. Like, it wasn't academics for me. It was extracurricular activity that came into play. But somebody went to bat for me, and I'm an infantry officer. I've been in for 11 years now, and I'll tell you what, I love serving this country, I'll continue to do it as long as they allow it.
Amen.
Absolutely. I'm going to have some news on some transfer portal news on the good side for Army. So I'm going to have some news this week probably on that.
Cool.
And you look at the mat drills. They showed mat drill videos early this week, I believe. And you look at Tyrell Robinson. He's right at the leading the group. The group's running to another station, so to speak. And you see Tyrell Robinson looks like he has a smile on his face. So, like you said, Steve and Joel. I mean, the brotherhood is strong, and we'll see what happens come spring when spring practice starts. Right?
And it's all look.
Can't be,
these guys only make each other sharper, man.
If you can't
these guys only make each other better in every aspect, whether it's academic, whether it's football, whether it's just meeting somebody out at the bar. These guys all make each other better every aspect of the way.
What I was gonna say is that if you can't be excited about Army football now, this era with what Coach Monken is doing, I mean, you got no pulse. I mean, they're bringing in bigger, faster, more athletic players nowadays than we were when we played. I mean, to give you my quick story with Coach Monken is it was when after they fired Coach Sutton. I think it was the second year after Coach Sutton was gone, and they had that coach whose name we do not speak. My brother Dan and I went to an Army game, and after the game, we won. I'm pretty sure we ended up winning. We go into Mr. Hall. Dickie Hall brings us in. We see Moose and all the trainers, and they're all loving on us. And me and Dan and everything, they're all loving it. Everyone's all, oh yeah, happy to see us. All that stuff. You feel at home. Mr. Hall introduces us to the coach, whose name we do not speak, and he was so disinterested. So Mr. Hall was like, "Oh, this is Dan Davis. He was captain of the 92 team. This is his brother Joel Davis. He's captain of the 95 team." Mr. Hall so proud to introduce us to him. This guy didn't care a flip about us. Nothing. And that was the whole stigma. So my brother and I afterwards, we looked at each other, and you could tell we felt like 5 cents waiting for change, right? So now fast forward all these years, man. So I go to a couple golf tournaments. I'm not a big golfer. It is what it is. But I'd always go for the dinner afterwards. Number one, because I'm fat and I want the food. Number two,
Joe, go this year. Joe, I'm going. Hey, this will be my first one. I'm finally making it this year.
That's good. Maybe I'll go for the dinner on Saturday. I won't golf. Maybe I'll go for a dinner. I'll kick it with you.
Nah, we're gonna golf, Joe.
But
I'll pay your green fees. Just go.
I ain't worried about the money, bro. But here's what happens. So I go to the was a couple years ago when we played Houston, where we just smacked Houston down there in Dallas, right? So I go to that game. So it's the Friday before the game, and I'm with a bunch of boys from my day. And we go to the stadium. We know that the team is doing their walkthrough, so we figure we'll go to the stadium, say what's up to everybody. So while we're going to the stadium, we start walking in. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go hit the head. I'm going to go to the bathroom." So they all go to the field. And I'm walking in the stadium. Now, I had been to a couple golf tournaments. I only golfed one of them. But, again, for the dinner, Coach Monken, everyone wants to talk to Coach Monken. Like, I'm not going to bother the guy. You got bigger fish to fry, more important people to talk to than Joel Davis. As I'm walking to the bathroom, he's walking out. Literally, we've almost bumped into each other. And I'm like, it was our bathroom moment. He's walking out. I'm walking in. So I said, "Coach Monken." He's like, "Yes, sir." I said, "Joel Davis." I graduated in 96. I was captain 95 team. He's like, "Oh, Joel Davis, this and that. Where'd you travel in from?" I'm like, "Oh, I just came from New York." "Oh, whereabouts in New York?" "Binghamton." "Oh, yeah, Binghamton, you got this and you got that." This dude's, you want to talk about expressing interest in who and what I was. Dude. So it's like, what a difference between Coach Monken and the coach whose name we do not speak. So Coach Monken, I'm still holding his hand. I'm shaking him. And he's a little dude compared to me. He's a little dude. So I pull him in close. I said, "Look, Coach, you just make sure you win tomorrow, because after you win, we're going to plant your statue back at West Point." And he started laughing. He goes, "Oh, I don't know. I think I need some more wins before that." I said, "No, Coach, you're handling your business. Just so you know, us old timers, we appreciate what you're doing. We love it." But what a difference between this guy doesn't know me from Adam, and the way by knowing that the other coach wanted nothing to do with alumni. He wanted to purge the system, got rid of the fat man's club. And I get it. Change can be good depending on how you do it, this and that. But he wanted to purge everything. Purge the alumni. The alumni weren't welcome. Take all the pictures down. Take this down. Change everything. Coach Monken is bringing it back. I mean, look at the Skull and Bones. Look at the stuff that he brings back with pride, with honor.
Yeah,
you gotta love that.
Yeah, I mean, we had Skull and Bones when I was there in 2010 with Coach Ellerson, man. Yeah. And our saying was bring it back, So, that I wasn't there, and I didn't feel quite the impact of the coach that we will not say what he did to the program, but I mean, we can see it. We can see that,
There's no question. He took us back, and we were not resurrected until Coach Monken came.
Yeah.
Coach Monken. And here's the funny thing is that the first spring ball I went to, I remember when I got to Army. I remember it was one of my first few practices. It was a padded practice. Someone got hurt on the field. Coach Sutton blows the whistle, move it up 10 yards, move it forward. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, this guy's hurt over here. This guy is hurt. How are we just going to move it forward? I'm like, man, these guys, like, this is crazy. So then a couple years, when I'd go and I'd see some of these other coaches, and it's like, you guys were like titty bumping. And then when I go to one of these practices with Coach Monken, first one I saw, first padded practice, someone got hurt. He blows the whistle, move it up 10 yards. I'm like, son of a B, I'm home. I said, finally, we got something.
Joe, I've been coaching my kids. My oldest is 7 now, and I just had a newborn in December, but I got a 5-year-old, and I know Joe do the same thing. Anybody goes down, I'm like, nah, I don't care. 5 yards down the field, I don't care if you're 7, 5, 6, doesn't matter. We're gonna move it down. We're gonna keep playing. Mom and Dad can come take care of you. You'll be fine. But you got to know, hey, next man up is a real thing.
No doubt. That's why I say, man, I'm proud to say that I played Army football, but there's no question they got better athletes now, bigger, faster, stronger. And kudos to you. And I remember I've heard some people, and you're always going to get the old grads. Oh, that's different. And look at all the facilities they have. Good. Let them get better facilities. I saw there was one of these guys got picked up with the USFL or something like that?
Scott Flanick, long snapper. USFL, yeah.
I don't care if it's what's the other one? They got the USFL now. What's the other one?
I think the
XFL. The XFL. Your boy The Rock just bought the XFL.
I don't think that's coming out this year, but
is it? Regardless, man, it's like
maybe later.
I hope these guys, whether they play in the NFL, the USFL, the XFL, the ABC, I don't care, man. It's like you're not going to get football out of your system. It's never going to leave you. So play as long as you possibly can. And if these guys can get out and play in these other leagues, I mean, and maybe they're not going to make it the NFL. Who cares, man? Just let them play. It's good for them. It's good for the military.
The bottom line is look, play as long as you can. And Joe, you know this, but look, man, it's a mentality.
Totally.
All right. It doesn't just look. Last time my last aspirations were, I tried out for the NFL in 2014, 2015. Right? It's 2022. I don't care. I'm still. That's my mentality, man. That's how I'm raising my kids.
Amen.
That's how I coach kids around the neighborhood. Like it's all the same. Like you just got to have that mentality. Otherwise, and that's the best part about Army football right now. There's so much talent.
Yeah, there is.
So many gifted individuals that have not only the God gifted, but they have the structure. They have the coaching.
So you got what? 2 sons?
I got 3 now. I'm 3. I just had my 3rd son in December. So
that's awesome.
7, 5, and a newborn.
That is awesome, brother. That's awesome. I got a 5-year-old girl. She's gonna be 6 in May. She's tall. She's awesome. And then
Joe, I'm 5'10". My wife's Puerto Rican. Okay, so she's like 5'1". Okay, it's not gonna happen. But
you better get you some linebackers, baby.
That's right. That's right. We're gonna be okay. All right.
My son just turned 4, and he's But see, it's like my kids, my son, my daughter. They're like, I want this. But Daddy, I don't care what you want. It's what you need.
Hey, Joel, we have real quick. Ed Stover wants to hop on, maybe.
Ed Stover, my illegitimate son.
Yeah.
First of all, tell me this, Sal. How long have you been following Army football for?
I wouldn't say. Well, following, I was a beat writer starting in 2007, Stan Brock's first year, and I had covered a couple Army Navy games. And believe it or not, let me send this to Ed real quick. Believe it or not, I covered Todd Berry's press conference when he was.
Whoa!
Oh, man. All right, we're out.
Sal.
We're out.
Hey, I don't appreciate you cussing on this show like this, Sal.
We're out.
What did he say? Did he say?
It was garbled.
He said, "Cod out in the."
It was garbled.
This is where we edit. This is where we edit the podcast. You know, we'll edit the podcast. But I did cover the guy that we don't speak's name of introductory press conference. 99, I think 99, right?
99.
That was my first introduction to Army football, and did a couple. You know what? I covered. Believe it or not, I covered 2 of his 5 wins at Army. They were both against Tulane at West Point, and our beat writer was doing Yankee games. He was doing Yankee playoff games, so I was kind of like the backup to the backup to the backup, I guess. And nobody wanted to do the games at the time. I'm like, I'll do them, and eventually I was able to get the beat from 2007 to 2018, and ups and downs. You know, saw some really rough years, was at the bowl game to see Steve's win. Incredible game. Was at when Army broke the streak, you know, against Navy. What I can't even to this day, hard to explain the euphoria after that, right? And
well, I hope you know personally how much we as old timers appreciate what you do by keeping us all together. I mean, you're bringing my illegitimate son Ed Stover on. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without you, Sal.
Yeah, hey Ed, you were on our reunion show, right? I mean, you were on our reunion show that we did for the 96 team, I believe. 95 team we did, the reunion show.
That is absolutely correct.
Yo,
that is correct. What's incorrect is Joel is my son.
Dude.
He knows it, and we don't need to go into that any further, Sal.
When I tell you about that diet, you better get a refund.
What's going on, Sal? How you doing?
I'm good. Hey, real quick, how could we have a 95 reunion show without Joel Davis on it? What were we thinking?
I didn't get invited, man.
Here's the problem. If you invite Eric, that's what I called him. That's what I named him. And Joel, Brew, and myself, it could quickly disintegrate into something you really don't want it in, Sal. I mean, there are many trips to Binghamton that we could talk about, and I need to take this moment in all seriousness. Mrs. Davis passed away this year, and she did so much for our football team and class of '96, just going back to Binghamton. So as we talk about reunions and family, please don't let me take this opportunity to say thanks to Mrs. D for everything she did for us, and just remember her as the great woman she was.
Amen.
Absolutely.
The thing is, Sal, is that no one can ever deny, as bad as things were, whether it was stuff as a plebe, going through Bucknam as a yuck, anything, as bad as things were, no one can ever deny that we did not have fun. I mean, you could have locked us up in solitary confinement with a 6x6 wooden block, and we were going to find a way to have fun with it. I mean,
Sal, this is no kidding.
Joel,
this week,
I think that's what it all goes back to is, man, I'll tell you what, West Point is one of those places that you hate while you're there, man.
Yes.
Like it sucks. It is gray. It is stone. It is very structured, but I'll tell you what, the times at Miss Davis's house and the weekends you get in Newburgh, or the weekends you get out you create memories that it doesn't matter, Joel and Ed, it doesn't matter how many years go by, there's going to be memories between that team and how it actually propelled you guys to be closer, how it propelled you guys to be better, and how it propelled you guys to work harder for one another. Because guess what? We don't get to enjoy the Thirsty Thursdays as most colleges, okay? we do live for the weekend, and no matter where it is, whether it's at a boy's house, whether it's in Highland Falls, I'll tell you what, those memories are created, and guess what? We're going to work that much harder during the week to make sure we don't let anything go to waste.
Hey, Sal, Army football honor. This week, I had a classmate that didn't play football. She talked about how the FMC stole her MREs and food while we were at Buck Nom, and we had so much fun where everyone else was losing weight in the battles that we had to do during summer training. It was Mike Wells, Joel Davis, Ed Stover, Bill Blair. We were all at Brian Tucker. We were all in the same platoon together at Camp Buckner, and we
not enough MREs.
We had a blast, and even just cadets that didn't play football remembered how much fun the FMC had.
Hey, there ain't many times the government's lost money on MREs. I'll tell you what, that lineup you just said in one platoon.
Yeah,
our platoon was that again, man. That's divinity right there, man. That was God's divine order. All together, man, because that was
we had so much fun.
Logistics officer's nightmare.
Oh no! Listen, we had so much fun. Our NCOs loved us. Our lane walkers loved us. We worked a little trade out. We learned how the Army really works. It was amazing. And I'm telling you, when we played down in Duke, guys showed up that trained us that summer, and it was just things that you would just never remember.
Ed, that goes back to the mentality of the team, man. You guys didn't bullshit no training just because you were football players. You didn't bullshit training because you were getting MREs or whatever. Like y'all had a mentality that, hey, we're here now. We're gonna do training, right? We're gonna dominate, right? And those guys remembered you. They probably came for Bragg, didn't they?
So our lane workers were Bragg and 101st out of Campbell.
Yeah. And guess what? When you played at Duke, guess who came to those games?
Yep.
Bragg babies, baby.
That's right.
Absolutely
they did. They came and I got to tell you, and Sal, remember when we had the reunion show, a couple things that resonate. One, Monken calls it the last of the hard, and we called it the national champions of toughness. Yep. It's the same thing. It's that we're the select few, right? We're the guys who decide to go the harder route, right? Anybody can play college football that has the ability. It's a different breed that chooses to do it at West Point. And I was part of that different breed. And, I'm so fortunate that I made that decision because I'm a better person for it. I've got brothers that would just – the experience is like no other. You can talk all the junk you want about, I went to this academy, I went to that. But going to West Point, being the last of the hard, being a national champion of toughness is a different mentality.
Hey, where are you living at, man?
To talk about it, there were teams that tried to walk in there, and you know what? Hey, we fought to the last minute. So, last second. That's just the way it goes.
Hey, you East Coast or you West Coast?
Say again?
Are you East Coast or West Coast?
I'm West Coast.
All right. I was going to say, because you still talking like it's 9 o'clock, man. Like, I'm trying to round it down. Now you get me all fired up, man. I'm about to open up another bottle and get after a little bit because you talking all excited. You know what I mean?
I got to tell you,
we got
like,
Joel over here. Joel and Sal is midnight running. You getting us all fired up now. Coming on late
I'm gonna
to
try
the
not
show.
to. But Sal, you remember I got caught the last time, right? I tried not to, but like you start talking Army football and smashing skulls and
Hey, there's only one way to talk about it, baby. There's only one way to talk about it.
But let me bring this up, Sal.
Go ahead, Dave.
Since Stovetop was here, because Stovetop started as a sophomore on the O line. So when I came, Stovetop, how much of our show did you see so far?
So I literally got on, and you were talking about. I think what you said was, "Hey, the coach that we don't speak his name was the first thing out of your mouth," and that was, enough for me to say, "How do I get in?"
So you missed quite a bit. So you got to go back and watch some of that stuff. But the Stover, who started as a sophomore. So when I came over as a junior and I started at left guard and I played nose guard that year. Stover would have started the only sophomore with the guys from 94. And the guys from 94, in my opinion, and I'm sure Top will agree, were huge mentors and a huge impact on us.
No question.
Because 94 guys, not only were they a bunch of great dudes, they were close like 96 guys were, but they were players as well. You take that O-line. So when Coach Sutton brought me up, because again, those guys were all leaving. That's why he asked me to come and start at left guard and also play nose guard my junior year. But I would be remiss if our success and the way we were, the 96 guys and the 97 guys, I would be remiss if I didn't give kudos to those guys from 94, Esco, Muir, Prehar, Matty, C, all those guys. Because like my brother, so when we're plebes, my brother is a firstie. I mean, there was what? Like how many seniors were there? Not including the senior managers. There was like 7 of them or something.
There was not many. There were not many.
7. Whereas the guys from 94 stayed together. The guys from 96 stayed together. The guys from 97 stayed together. And the 95, don't get me wrong, the class 95, the Joe Ross. I mean, dude, Joe Ross is our guy, man. We blocked for him. There were some great dudes there. But I personally, again, when I was a sophomore starting at defensive end, I roomed with Slomka, great dude, Gary Graves, Matty C, Prehar, Esco.
And those are the guys that those last guys, they're the guys who raised me on the O-line,
Straight
right?
up.
Like Matt Conway, Troy Prehar, Kevin Muir. So
when they're all starting on offensive line, I'm a defensive end. But dude, Matty C, Muir, Prehar. I mean, even Esco, but even like the skinny dudes, B Rice, Slutty. I mean, when I was a plebe, these guys were looking out for me, bailing me out, taking care of me. I mean, that's what it was all about. So by the time I'm a junior and a senior, and that's the way we were. We were taking care of those young pups coming through, man.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we do not mention the coach unnamed, but it just it cannot be enough said when you're, and this is anything, man. This is company commander in the infantry, or it's corporate 500 CEO, right? When you come in and take away basically the fibers or what built the success that you have, right? You just want to get rid of it. Just doesn't end well, man. It's frustrating, especially as you look back on history, right? 2020 vision's great, but man, it just, I as a 2006, entering the prep school at 2006, having Benny K as my first mentor ever, right? He was the first mentor I ever had that was associated with Army football. Probably couldn't have asked for a better one, as a linebacker, and where he wanted to get it back to. That's just where it kind of.
Benny K would be someone you want to play for, man. Benny K.
Yeah, and I got so many one-liners.
Oh man, no doubt.
From Coach Kawika, right? Not 44, right? Not the guy you guys know. I got Coach Kawika, fucking Iraq veteran, Apache pilot. There's some.
Benny handles his business, man. Benny handles.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where he goes.
What it goes
does,
back to, what I'm trying to bring it back to is, right, Army football throughout history is a successful organization because it has leaders at all levels. You have freshman leaders, you have coaching leaders, you have military leaders. Everybody wants this program to be successful. Nobody is ever a part of Army football and they wanted to say, you know what, we're going to take a break this year. It doesn't matter if we win, right? It just doesn't happen. And to be able to just hear you guys talk about just all these guys that I only know by, stat sheets and stuff I've read, and hear you guys just talk about just the impact of the program is
when we were Stovetop.
It's what makes the brotherhood great, right?
When we were at it was the photo day going into our senior year, and the reporters were there for the photo days, and they asked me some type of a question. It said something, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, if you guys have a good season this year, you could probably pull out a 7-4 season. And I'm like, 7-4. Well, who the hell are we supposed to lose to? I was taken back by the question. Like, you already got it predetermined that we're supposed to be 7-4. Please enlighten me. Who the hell we're supposed to lose to? I couldn't understand that, and that's the attitude we went into. I get it. We finished 5-1, not where we wanted to be. But like Stove said, we took your ass down to the minute. So I don't even remember how he posed the question to me, but I remember being like, "Who the hell? You please enlighten me of which games, because I'm not going to show up. Why even play the damn game?"
Well, you know what you're talking about, Eric. What you're really talking about is when you turn around and you talk about Wisconsin and Michigan, both of them were losses. The difference is my boys will strap it up and we can do it again next week. And Michigan is like Tennessee. They're paying money to get out of that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what it comes down to being an Army football player. We'll scratch and fight and claw and we'll battle and we'll do it again next week. Right? And we just go at it all the time. And
that's why that's like when you see Coach Monken, especially that COVID year, and he's like, "We'll play anybody at any time." Dude, you're my guy.
Yeah, right.
You're my guy.
You know what I really love, though? What I really love is how it bleeds over into Army rugby, and it's bled over into Army lacrosse. And you know what? Army's women lacrosse, right? I love the fact that it goes throughout the core. If you want some, come get it. Come play West Point, and you can get it. It doesn't matter the sport. And I love the fact that Coach Monken is supporting all these other teams and the mentality, because for the ones that don't go on and participate in the world-class athlete program, to the ones that get an opportunity to go to Oxford and study, same thing as the guys who go on to the NFL and try there. For those people who don't do that, they become Army officers. And even those that do it and become Army officers later, you still want that mentality that, hey, listen, I'm going to lead my troops and I'm going to bring them home. And that's what it's really all about, right? I mean, kicking ass, taking names, and let's do it all over again. And so
I think recently Coach Monken had talked to the Army women's basketball team. I think last week it was, maybe before their last home game or something like that. So I think that what the athletic department has done is right, Ed. You're on top of it. The coaches are, you look at Army hockey too. I mean, there's a lot of respect. There's a lot of respect factor there for each program, and
absolutely,
it really shows. Man, we got to do Joel Davis part 2. I think we got to do Joel Davis part 2 because we're running.
There'll be a lot of stories.
There'd be a lot of story. I mean, I think we still have more, man.
Oh, we haven't even. You didn't even have me on here, Sal. If you didn't have me on here, there's no way you have stories. I've got some stories for you, but I'm gonna have to get my other son, Fat Brew, to come along with us. So it'd be the FMC. So Joel Davis part 2. I want to be the FMC so that I can really tell stories about this young man right here.
Hey, Joel, Ed Stover, producer of the Black Knight Nation podcast, coming up with ideas for the Black Knight Nation podcast, right? I mean, on a Sunday night, almost right now, Monday morning on the East Coast here, we got Ed Stover. We have to get him on the payroll, so to speak. Well, we have ways to go there.
Where's Steve-O at? Where's Steve-O?
He'll be coming back. Once Steve comes back, we'll sign off. Guys, if you're watching this, it's the end of the podcast, but please check out our YouTube channel. We have all the podcasts from the past. Ben Kotwika's on there. Ronnie McCada's on there. Mike Mayweather's on there. Elijah Riley, Cole Christensen, Ali Villanueva. I'm hoping to get another guest next Sunday. A quarterback from the mid-'80s of Army might be popping on here. So we'll have the Fat Man's Club Part 2 Joel Davis story coming up soon. And man, we have some good stuff. Please check out Black Knight Nation 2. And man, I guess this has been a blast, Steve. You and Joel got to meet each other for the second time, not the first time, the second time. So
yeah, when Sal
hit me up. This is the first time we got to conversate for real.
Exactly.
I was in receive mode the first time.
Yeah, I ended up when Sal first hit me up. He said, "Yeah." He asked me about a date, and I said, "What about Steve-O? He's off doing NTC." I said, "No. We gotta wait." I said, "I need Steve-O."
Yeah.
Steve, not that Sal couldn't hear the show, but Steve-O was
first met in 2006, right? 2006, 2007. I'm not sure what time of year that was. It was prep school year. It was my culture shock to the United States Military Academy. But me and Joel have conversated a few times over Facebook, over text messages.
Yeah.
And, I like to believe we think very similarly.
Big time.
And
that's scary.
And I'm glad you got on here, man. Dude, when I saw Ed Stover's name pop up, I was like, is he coming on too? Oh shit, we about to get real up in here. We might go another hour. So we can
sometime before they cut us off. Don't worry.
This is what it's about, man. Look, Joel, Ed, this is what it's about. You guys are amazing, man. I remember reading about your names, hearing about your names. I got to meet Joel when I was a young 18-year-old, and this is what the brotherhood's all about.
Amen.
All right, and it doesn't matter if we go 10-2. The Army football. It is great to be an Army football fan right now.
Amen.
All right, it's great. I can chime in every Saturday and know and expect to win. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we just hope, just like you guys did to me when I was a young guy, I just hope that these guys try to get a little more perspective at 18, 19, 20, while I'm at 33, 48, 50, whatever we're at. So,
hey, don't throw numbers out there, Steve. Don't throw numbers out there.
That's why we got to give kudos to Coach Monken for giving us an awesome program that we could all celebrate and cheer on together. And ultimately, we also got to give kudos to Big Sal for even putting this podcast together.
No question.
That's what I was going to say about this podcast. That's what it's all about. It's about building the brotherhood here too, right? Where people
and if we didn't have you, Sal, I didn't see anybody else picking up the torch, but Sal picked up the torch and Sal did it. So, Sal, you may not have played Army football, but you are an integral part of Army football because you're the conduit that helps keep us together. How else? I'm in New York. How else am I going to talk to my illegitimate bastard son over in Washington if it wasn't for you?
Hey, guys, disregard all that, Sal.
I love you, son.
You know how these kids get these days. These young whippersnappers, no respect.
I sent the child support check. It's in the mail.
No respect.
It ain't gonna bounce this time.
No respect.
Guys, it's incredible what we were able to do here. I mean, Steve, I still remember that Pete Dawkins podcast that we did a few months back. That was just we had them 20 minutes, but just the stories you hear from there are just unbelievable.
Hey, man. Hey, the bloodline runs deep. And I don't care what you call it. It's a bloodline.
Amen.
Okay. It's a bloodline, and that's just what it is. So we'll do this again. And we're going to continue to talk Army football every single week, really until the good Lord decides to take me.
Exactly.
And then I'll have to do it from heaven, I guess.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah. Hey, just real quick, we have you guys know Christian. He says it's good seeing you both here, Joel and Ed.
Awesome.
Joe, we talked about the Notre Dame game earlier. Your thoughts on that? And he also said that the golden era of Army football, 94, 96, golden era.
Well, so Christian, not gonna relive that game, but just so you know, my little brother found some tapes, and it had the Washington, Duke, and Notre Dame games, and so I started hitting these guys with clips. I started hitting these guys with clips, and I mean, it was so. If you want something, Sal, tell them to get in touch with me, and I'll start sending them highlight clips of me throwing jokers out the club, escorting them out, talking a little trash, asking them why they got scholarships, what are they doing on the field, all politely though, as a gentleman and cadet should. I just if he needs those clips, I do have them.
Well, we're going to do this again really soon. I think the Fat Man's Club podcast is certainly in our future. Joel and Ed, great seeing you guys tonight.
You too,
and great getting some fantastic stories. Just amazing stuff tonight. And that's why we do this. So guys, like I said, check out us on social medias. Check us out, blacknation.com, YouTube channel. If you guys got anything you guys like to plug before we go off, Joel or Ed?
Ed, I'm so proud of you as a father. Don't worry. The check is going
to FMC MOB. Don't listen to him. MOB.
Hey, Sal, we love you. We appreciate you, Sal. Steve-O.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we'll link up soon. All right. Even if it's not on if it's not on the 18th, right? We'll have dinner afterwards. All right, Joel? This year. July 15th. All right, brother?
All right,
hey, Steve, you owe me a dinner because you're talking to my son. Didn't even invite me, but that's okay.
All right. Hey, I got you, Ed. All right.
All right. There we go.
All right,
guys. We're out.